Dr. Upadhaya, are you there? Hello, everyone. We'll start our program at 4. So please bear with us for some time.
Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for our speakers. They are about to join us. The moment they join us, we'll be starting. Let's wait for a few seconds.
Dr. Upadhaya has joined already.
Okay. Rita Banerji, Miss Rita has joined? Yes, she has joined. Hello, everyone.
Dr. Upadhaya?
Yeah, Dr. Upadhaya has joined.
Yeah, yes. Can you switch on your video, please? Dr. Upadhaya?
Dr. Krishna Upadhaya, kindly switch on your video.
Hello, Vishwarupa.
Yes.
Dr. Upadhaya has already joined.
No, he can't hear us. We have to check it out, Shangita. Dr. Upadhyay, can you hear us?
Actually, I admitted him. And Ms. Banerji is also there with us. Ms. Banerji is also
there with us.
Yeah.
She is there. Dr. Upadhyay, can you hear us? No, I think he has logged out somehow.
Hello, Dr. Krishna Upadhyay is with us.
No, but he is not answering our call.
I don't know why, but he is with us. Dr. Krishna Upadhyay is with us.
Dr. Upadhyay, can you hear us? Could
Yes,
you please switch on your...
I've talked to him.
He's there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Should we wait for him after the slide?
Yeah. Just wait for him for a few seconds.
Yeah.
And yes, I think he's back. He's back. Okay. You can go carry on. Okay, hello everyone. A very warm welcome. Getting together again on day 2 of this international webinar series, part 1, Biodiversity Conservation and Sustainable Development Issues, Challenges and Outcomes. We're extremely happy to have all of you once again with us and absolutely excited to have wonderful eminent speakers with us today. Dr. Krishna Upadhaya from Dehradun, Ms. Rita Banerji from Dustyfoot, and Dr. Subrata Nandy from IIRS Dehradun. So we'll begin shortly. Before we go into the program, those who have logged into YouTube, I welcome all of you once again. And I would request our joint convener, Dr. Dipanshu Vishwas, to kindly give a welcome address to all our participants and our speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Hello, everyone. Respected Principal Madam, Professor Papya Chakravarti, Honorable Keynote Speaker, faculty members, students, and dear participants. On behalf of Joint Convener of the Organizing Committee, Brahmananda Keshab Chandra College, Kolkata, I have the great pleasure to welcome you all today for the second day session of the International Webinar Series, Part 1, on Biodiversity Conservation and Sustainable Development Issues, Challenges and Outcomes. As you all are aware that nature has shown us the confusion conscious effort on our part that can make tremendous positive changes in our surrounding environment. In this background, we have tried to organize a series of webinars on the theme biodiversity conservation. I am thankful to our principal madam for their wholehearted support. I am very happy to welcome our eminent speaker, Dr. Krishna Upadhaya from Department of Basic Science and Social Science, School of Technology, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. I am very proud to heartily welcome our next keynote speaker, Ms. Rita Banerji, who is a Green Oscar Awardee, and Director of Green Hub Production, Tezpur. I am also welcome our third keynote speaker, Dr. Subrata Nandy. He is a scientist and engineer in Forestry and Ecology Department at Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, Dehradun. I, on behalf of our team, want to sincerely thank you all for honoring our invitation in spite of your very busy and tight schedule. Once again, I want to heartily welcome you to this webinar and wish you successful deliberations. Wishing you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipanshu. I would like to welcome our principal, ma'am, who has been the guiding force behind this webinar. So I would like to ask ma'am to kindly give a lecture and inaugurate this session.
Thank you, Dr. Vishwarupa Ghosh. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon on behalf of Brahmananda Keshab Chandra College. Today we are in the series 1, part 2 part. So welcome you all again in this platform today, where the eminent speakers on very interesting topics will speak on it. The very first speaker will speak on the sacred groves. Now, what are the sacred groves actually? They are the hotspots of biodiversity. In ancient Greece, these are were the religious sanctuaries where sacrifices for worship were made. Now, these were marked as a territory that had restrictions from the outside world. It served not only for religious duties, but also provided practical functions such as giving a shade, coolness, fruits, and other arboreal products, and shelter to the avifaunal diversity also. Perhaps wilderness, if it's to achieve in physical form as sacred terrain, is best understood as a wild place that exists between the agrarian landscape and uncultivated territory. These are the sites that became the sanctuaries, the places of certain gods. Now in India, every state has sacred groves. They are the undisturbed patches of vegetation that are dedicated to local folk deities or ancestral spirits. Like in Himachal Pradesh, there is a place called Devvan or Devta Ka Jungle, where one is not allowed to cut trees, neither they are allowed to bring out the dried leaves out of the forest. Now, what we find, they are the fine examples of in situ conservation. Their existence depends upon the social traditions and taboos, incorporating spiritual and ecological values which prevent their destruction. These groves represent an invaluable gene pool, conserve the biodiversity, and have been given different names. These pristine patches of forests have been instrumental in saving many vanishing species, and these serve as the mini ecosystems. But pressures of growing urbanization and industrialization and the need for roads and housing and other infrastructure has eaten away the areas of groves. So these groves are actually managed by religious bodies or local bodies or management committees in the states. Now, the next speaker is a very interesting one, Ms. Rita Banerji, will speak on the Green Hub project. Now, what we understand from this is they're dealing with environment films, communication strategy, and education and outreach, especially focused on wildlife, indigenous knowledge, and biodiversity. what is the idea? The idea is to use the visual medium to empower and engage the youth of the region who can themselves be the change makers. So I welcome you, ma'am. And the next is a very interesting and very technologically sound aspect of today's speakers topic, that is the assessment of biodiversity through GIS and RS technology. Now, this geographical information system and the remote sensing technology is an efficient and cost-effective means of data collection for conservation, management, and planning of biodiversity and other resources. Especially fluctuations in biodiversity of freshwater, marine, and terrestrial ecosystems, the technology plays an important character by providing images through satellite data and on regular basis, that is real-time data. Now, sufficient information related to distribution of species and changes in distribution with respect to time is required to develop the conservation strategies. So, it is the need of the hour, which is very difficult to obtain if we do it on the basis of field assessment and monitoring. This is rather impossible nowadays. So the best way to do is to remote sensing technology. And our speaker, I welcome you, sir, for being with us, and we will learn a lot about it from. So I welcome Dr. Upadhaya, Ms. Banerji, and Dr. Nandy, Subrata Nandy, who will enlighten us with their work today. And I welcome all the participants who have joined us today again to hear from our speakers. And many thanks to the organizing team members who have relentlessly worked on this to make it successful. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Professor Papia Chakraborty, our principal. We are very lucky to have someone like you who is a very sensitive person towards biodiversity and nature, and it has been a blessing for us to have you with us. We would like to open our technical session. We'll open with technical session 1, where I invite our senior faculty member, Dr. Dinesh Halda, to kindly introduce our speaker for the first technical session, Dr. Krishna Upadhaya. Dr. Haldar, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Vishruba Ghosh. Good afternoon, everybody. I have the pleasure and honor to introduce our first keynote speaker of our today's webinar to Dr. Krishna Upadhaya, Assistant Professor, School of Technology, Department of Basic Sciences and Social Sciences, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He has been working in the area of sacred groves of Meghalaya for the past many years. Dr. Upadhaya was featured in the documentary Sacred Group of Meghalaya and Untouched Through Centuries by NDTV. He was also interviewed on Sacred Down to Earth magazine December 2003. His total number of publications is 63, out of which 48 in different journals, 1 book, and 14 book chapters. So far, he has completed 6 government-funded projects. 4 students completed PhD under his guidance, and at present, another 4 students are pursuing the doctoral degree under his supervision. Dr. Upadhaya will speak today on traditional approaches in biodiversity conservation with a special reference to sacred groves. Now, I welcome Dr. Krishna Upadhaya to deliver his lecture. Dr. Upadhaya, please.
Before we go, thank you, Dr. Dinesh Halda, for introducing Dr. Upadhaya. Before we go into the session, I would also personally like to welcome each and every speaker. They have been tremendously busy, and we have been relentlessly after them to give us an opportunity to listen to them. And after a relentless endeavor, they have given into our request, and they are here today to share with us their lifelong experiences. And I'm sure it'll help all the participants. I would like to especially welcome and mention that we have a large group of UG and PG students. And this webinar is not for namesake. It actually aims at inspiring as many young minds as possible to get into the cause of biodiversity conservation, because we have seen in this lockdown and the COVID pandemic that nature is healing if we allow it to heal. All these years, it seemed it was impossible to even allow nature to heal because we were the most important species on this planet. But with this lockdown, with this involuntary slowing down of economic and social machinery, nature has been able to heal. And it is showing us very vividly that look, we can coexist in a harmony. We can heal. You don't need to destroy us totally for your own needs, because actually our needs are not so many. They are few, but we have built a hypothetical need of many, many needs. So I request each and every participant, especially my young friends, please take as much as you can from these webinars. And it's not just for a certificate, it's not just for a technological input. It's actually the essence that biodiversity needs to be healed, not for itself. It has tremendous power to heal itself. For us, in fact, our existence can come to a stake if the biodiversity is not managed, if it is not in balance, if we do not go for sustainable development. I know it's difficult, but I think if we all join hands, we can do something positive. So with that mind frame, let's go to technical session 1. I hope we have Dr. Krishna Upadhaya with us, because I can't see him on the screen. Host, could you inform me?
Yeah, he's there.
Yes,
I'm there.
with us.
Welcome, Dr. Upadhaya. Could you kindly switch on your video?
Yes, it's on.
Yes, that's great. Wonderful to see you, sir.
Yes, yes.
We can see you, sir. I think you can start your session. A very big welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, thank you very much. So can I start now?
Yes, please.
Oh. Please
enable the screen, host.
Please allow me to share the screen.
It's done, sir?
Yes, it has come. Share. Can you see the screen?
Yes, double click.
Yes, it's.
Sir, kindly double click to enter full screen. Yes, please. Could you kindly go to full screen mode?
So now?
Yes, it is good, but could you kindly go to full screen mode? Full screen below.
Dr. Upadhaya, just go to the top. There you can see in red the written file. Just top of it. Move your cursor to further top. Yes, you can see a arrow. Home is written, then insert is written. Just top of insert, you can click on that icon. Yes, a little more. Yes, home, above that. And the last one, last icon, above home. Yes, next one.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
It is fine, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Yes,
sir.
yes, sir. Clear, sir. Clear. Continue, sir.
Participant, please do not unmute yourselves.
So first of all, thank you.
Hello.
Organizing this opportunity. So
Sir, you are not audible. Dr. Upadhaya?
how help in conservation of biodiversity with reference to A.
I think he has logged out. Dr. Ghosh?
Yes.
I think he has logged out somehow. I think his connectivity is low.
Can we?
Yeah.
Can I request Ms. Banerji to just get, if she's ready for her session, can we move on to the next session and we'll come back to Dr. Upadhaya again? Is that possible? I will just talk to her. Kindly run the slides, please.
Madam?
No, I'm talking
Will
to
you please
Dr.
unmute? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I'm requesting host to kindly give us the opportunity to talk to Ms. Rita Banerji, and
Yes.
we'll check with her if she is available.
Yeah, she's there. She is there. Okay. Ma'am, is it okay if you can start your presentation?
In a short.
Is my audio clear?
Yeah. We can hear you properly. Yes.
Okay.
But I would then request our faculty member, senior member, Dr. Shobita Gangopadhyay, to kindly introduce Ms. Rita Banerji to our audience, please. Thank you for being ready to help us out. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hello. Thank
Dr.
you, Dr.
Gangopadhyay?
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. It's a great honor for me to introduce Ms. Rita Banerji, the keynote speaker of the second technical session. Ms. Banerji is the founder director of the Green Hub project, which was started in 2015 in northeast of India. Green Hub is a northeast network and Dusty Foot initiative. She is one of the leading environment filmmakers in India, and her work has been grounded in using communication as a strong tool for conservation action. In 2017, she was awarded the National Geographic CMS Prithvi Ratna Award for contribution to environment through films and the RBS Earth Heroes Award in 2018. She has been part of 3 Panda Award-winning films, also known as the Green Oscar at Wild Screen UK, including Shores of Silence, Whale Sharks in India, that led to the ban on killing of whale sharks in India, and the Wild Meat Trail that led to conservation initiative in the northeast of India. Her core work now is engaging and empowering the youth, especially from indigenous and grassroots community, in conservation and social change through the use of the visual media. She was inducted this year as an Ashoka Fellow. Today, Ms. Banerji will speak on the Green Hub project, engaging youth in environment conservation through the use of the visual media. You're welcome, ma'am. Please start your deliberation.
Thank you, Dr. Gangopadhyay. And it's such a privilege to have Ms. Rita Banerji with us. It's an inspiration just to hear to your biodata, and I'm sure your work will be much more inspiring. Looking forward to your presentation. Over to you.
Thank you so much for making me part of this presentation. And I'm very happy to interact with all of you, meet all of you, as well as interact with the students. Can you hear me clearly? Is the audio clear?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
So what I'll do is I'll try and share a bit of my background, how I started the work, and then share some slides. And then I think we can have a more question answer session, which will be more interactive. My background, as you heard, is environment films. And the reason I'm talking about it is because it's been my biggest teacher, you can say. You know, my entire, I think since 91, I started making films, and it's been more than 20 years or more than 25 years now. And it's been fascinating experiences, you know, filming with Kurumba honey hunters in the Western Ghats, filming the leatherback turtles in Andamans, spending a lot of time with indigenous communities. And the most beautiful aspect of that has been to really understand what biodiversity is, to really understand the importance of rock bee, to understand the importance of, you know, a turtle on a beach. You know, my entire understanding of biodiversity conservation, sustainable development has been through actually being on the ground and making these films. So you can say, like, you know, it's been so many years, but I still feel it's really the beginning, even now. You know, every day in India is like a learning platform. Like, you know, you will go anywhere, and it's a new thing you're learning about. So one of the films I did was called the Wild Meat Trail. This was in the northeast of India, and we started filming this in 2003. I'll share some pictures from there now. Am I allowed to share the screen? Yeah.
It's been allowed, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just make it full screen. So you can see some trail. And this film focused, actually we filmed it over 5 years. And this was on the hunting of wildlife in the northeast of India. Our whole idea was to really understand what is the impact of traditional hunting. You know, people hunt wild meat for food, and to really see, was there an impact on the actual wildlife population? And it was one of the, you know, I mean, this picture you're seeing is a group of Nishi tribesmen. This is in Arunachal Pradesh. This village had actually banned hunting. They had stopped hunting because a lot of their wildlife, like, you know, they had to walk many more kilometers now to find any kind of wildlife. So they had actually taken a decision together to stop hunting. And we went with them to the forest to really understand how they used to hunt. So they showed us the traps, they showed us the, you know, this is how we stayed there in the camp, like we stayed with them. And the most, I think what we came back with was not about hunting so much, but to see how much knowledge they have about the forest. You know, they knew each and every plant. They knew where a wild boar was going to cross the road. They knew which squirrel was going to be found where. And just, you know, there was so much, those moments which we spent with them are totally frozen, because it's like you see this community with so much of knowledge. The forest is like their home. Like, you know, they just go with a little backpack was there, and a little dao was there, and nothing else. And there were these old rice cakes. So we went into the forest with just that, and they could set up a camp. Suddenly they had to catch fish, so they would make a little net and catch the fish out of the cane. So we came back with a huge respect for what the community had to offer in terms of knowledge, you know. And this picture which you see is really interesting, because this is a person called Jarjo, you know, and he held the camera, and he said, you know, the forest was like, from the village, from this village, the forest was like, we walked almost the entire day to reach one part of the forest. And then we spent 2-3 days and came back. So he was like, why are you guys going with us? You know, you give us the camera, we'll shoot for you, and you guys sit here. So, you know, these were the kind of amazing conversations we had with them. But this film was very important because what we discovered was that hunting was huge. And many of the communities, wherever you went, things had changed. If you spoke to an older hunter, he would be able to tell you so much about animals from the bird book or from the mammal book. But the younger hunters hadn't seen so much. Many times for the festivals where they needed wild meat or wild, there are many rituals which involve wildlife. They had to walk much more, much deeper, maybe to other forest areas to get anything. So I think there was a realization that somewhere the balance had been disturbed. And the balance had been disturbed because wild meat had gained a commercial angle to it. Earlier, wild meat was hunted, a deer was hunted, you came back to the village, you shared it with the community, and had it. A hunter had a huge status in a village. But over time, what happened was that wild meat started coming to the city and it became a commercial. It was like an ATM card. You got a bunch of birds, you sold it, you got 500 rupees and you went back. And because of the lack of opportunities, lack of income, this was a big source of income. If you sold vegetables, you earned 3,000. If you sold wild meat, you earned 15,000. And this I'm talking about many years back. This film was 2007, so more than 13, 14 years back. So we felt we have to go beyond the film, where we actually start engaging with the community. That's where we started. I think this was the first step. And we started a training program called Under the Canopy. And along with that, we started an eco club program for children called the Hulog Gibbon Eco Club. And this was our first time collaboration with an NGO called Northeast Network, which is a women's organization and has been working for more than 25 years in Northeast of India, Nagaland, Meghalaya, Assam. So we actually held a workshop there, and from there, this eco club idea grew. And it was a very small thing. It was 20 children, learning about wildlife. And the same children actually earlier were hunting, were eating frogs, were, for them a bird, if they saw a bird, they would take a gulail, what you call it, slingshot, and they would kill a bird. But the same kids started learning about wildlife, started looking at insects, started looking at butterflies, and we had a very nice set of resource people. Like I was teaching them photography and camera. A friend of mine was teaching them how to measure a tree, how to identify a bird. This is Sanjay Sondhi. He's he works with butterflies. He's a turtle butterfly specialist. So these are kids in the field. They started learning about wildlife, and suddenly, the camera became a very interesting tool for them. They looked through a binocular, and suddenly the bird would jump out at them. And they were like, whoa, So this whole idea of you fall in love with what you're shooting. And so these are some kids, they started using the camera. And this, what you see, is one of the times where we put up a moth screen for the children as an eco club activity. And this is in Chizami in Nagaland, where Northeast Network works. And you won't believe it, this was July. There were hundreds and hundreds of moths on that white screen, and it was so beautiful. Like, it was like a living lab. The kids were busy taking the pictures. We were surrounded by moths. And then it was everybody sitting together next day trying to identify the moths. So the whole area became alive, So that change in thought process, I think, from, looking at an animal just like that, looking at an insect just like that, suddenly it becomes something which you want to film, something which you want to measure, something which you want to document. So these were some images from there. But then and the Eco Club model went into other villages. It still runs in a few villages in Nagaland, including in Wokha, where the Amur Falcon project is going on. But the whole learning at one point was, yes, video is a very, very strong tool for biodiversity conservation, for understanding conservation. But how do you scale it up? How do you scale up conservation? Because what we can see is that development paradigm does not look at conservation as integral to it. We can see everything today. You can see the human-animal conflict, which is there in Bengal, which is there in Assam, which is there in the south. It's forests are disappearing, our wetlands are going, constructions are going beyond what is sustainable. And COVID has, I think, brought out all that very starkly. And COVID has, what Dr. Bishwarupa was also saying, that this is the time to really think about conservation. So for us at that time, it was like, fine, we are doing fine. It's great to see the children thinking about butterflies and animals and biodiversity, but how do you scale up this thought process so we can actually make a change? So that is how the entire Green Hub project started. And this was 5 years back. So the whole idea is using video as a tool for conservation action to involve youth, mostly from remote areas, mostly from indigenous communities, mostly from groups which otherwise do not have the resources to learn this kind of a medium. Because our training is very, very intense. It's a 1-year fellowship. And every year, right now, it is for the Northeast region, all the 8 states, including Sikkim. Every year we select 20 youth, and it's through an application process. It's quite extensive. We receive about 150 to 200 applications. And there's a lot of hard work which goes behind that, because we want youth from remote areas, from indigenous communities, people who are actually living with the forest, living with the rivers, and many of the youth who migrate out of Northeast to really try and see whether they can stay and actually build the region back. So these are some pictures from the selection process. We have an interesting jury. When the fellows come, they have to also give their perspective by watching some films, and we try and get an idea of what they know. So it's very interesting. This picture, 2 of the boys are from Sikkim, 1 is from Manipur. This girl which you saw, Dechin, is from Zimithang in Arunachal. So it's also a collective kind of a thing where you see youth from all over. And after this whole process, after the face-to-face interviews, 20 get selected every year, and they are with us for 1 year. It's a residential fellowship. So over the last 4 years, 5 years now, we've completed 5 years, we've had 88 fellows and over 750 applications, and from all the states. This year, we also got many applications from Tripura itself. There's a whole set of resource people from different parts of the country, so that the fellows get the focus on documentation, the video documentation, the skill for biodiversity documentation is very high. Like, the focus is that they actually get close up and macro shots of insects, birds, so that they can actually make a difference, not just by learning about the video, but also becoming a very good video resource for researchers, for students, for schools. So the kind of collection and the films we have it open for anybody. Any of you want to use the films for your classes, any of you want to visit the Northeast and you want to look at a footage so that you get a reference, it's for open access to everybody. So the idea is this video also becomes like an educational resource. So these are just some pictures from the training to give you an idea. This is Anoko, who's from Arunachal. This girl is Seetal. She actually works with an NGO called Nature Conservation Foundation, which works in Paket. She's still working with them. They are all from our first batch. This is Zakuma, who's in fact from the forest patrolling team in Dampa Tiger Reserve. He's one of the most amazing natural history person. He'll walk the forest, and many of the researchers have done their PhDs walking with Zakuma. And he just loves the forest, and he uses his camera to walk around in the community to tell them about Dampa, the wildlife. And in recent times, we've heard of, this whole oil palm cultivation, which is being promoted. Sadly, in Mizoram, right next to Dampa Tiger Reserve, Dampa is this amazingly natural, beautiful animals. You should see the film which we have. Just across is oil palm cultivations. And oil palm cultivations, unfortunately, really drain the natural ecosystem. It's not only, we spoke to the farmers, water levels have gone down. The streams which were running, water has been sucked because of the oil palm plantations. There is a lack of biodiversity. You can see the difference in the sound you'll hear from Dampa Tiger Reserve, and you pan towards the oil palm, and there's a stark difference in what you hear. and it hasn't led to much sustainable kind of a livelihood. So these are the things which through the documentation one tries to bring out, and once the fellows bring it out, they lead it to the community. So these are some of our faculty taking different sessions. It's not just the camera, but there are lectures on conservation. There's some Suresh element from Kerala. So I'll just go through these pictures first. So these are some training pictures, and the beautiful part is there are fellows from Assam interacting with fellows from Mizoram, or interacting with fellows from Assam or Arunachal. And Northeast, if you see Northeast is only thing you hear about the Northeast is violence and conflict. But here, everybody's coming together, and it's also a process where you learn about each other's states, you learn about each other's identity, you try and transcend those borders of conflict, you try and transcend those borders of identity, and because of that, the idea is that can we build a network of youth across the region who become the change makers? Once you fall in love with nature, once you fall in love with the birds, the forests, the rivers, you yourself will become one of the catalysts for change. And being part of the community makes all the difference. So during the fellowship, you can see there's a lot of field visits. I mean, the entire year is full of going into the field, filming with organizations, filming different topics on human-animal conflict, traditional agriculture. This is a small village called Fakim village in a very, very remote area in Nagaland. This Limthure, who you see on the left, is part of this village. And this Jimmy, who's from Meghalaya. So they're fellows from all parts of the Northeast. So just by getting together, you understand the region so much more beyond conservation, These are some pictures from the field visits, and through the year, the fellows are doing that, going into the field, coming back, through looking at the footage. There's a lot of learning. This is at Green Hub where we are in Tezpur. These are the editing machines. So each and every fellow at the end of it learns how to edit their own stories, learns how to use the computer. People who have not even touched the computer before, camera before, are able to film very beautifully. So this is Longso, again from Nagaland. Now he was in our first batch. He's working with Tata Trust now with his own community. This is Geeta. She's from Tezpur itself, had never touched a camera, was working with the Mahila Samiti, and continues with us as a training assistant now. And as you can see, there are different topics covered. It's indigenous knowledge, medicinal plants, folk music, traditional handloom. So the idea of conservation is not limited to, we are not saying that wildlife is in isolation. What we are saying is when we look at conservation, when we look at environment, it's a larger umbrella. It's Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. So now in this map, you can see the spread of the fellows. It's all across the Northeast, including Sikkim. So now with this kind of network, when you talk about, like, say, somebody from Nagaland wants to visit Arunachal, wants to understand the community there, understand the conservation projects there, there's a whole network which interacts with each other. And the idea is it becomes like a web of action, web of thought process, web of positive change in the region. So I'll before I wind up, these are some of the
almost 18 hours.
Okay, I think there's some sound coming. Never mind. Okay, so these are some of the alumni, because the whole thing is what after the fellowship. Our fellowship is 1 year, but a lot of our work is now with the alumni, because it's not just a question of the fellowship is almost like the beginning point. And then the idea is to work with the alumni and see what projects they're doing. So this is Mordecai from Tamenglong in Manipur. He works with the Corbett Foundation. He started something called Tamenglong for Conservation and is working with wildlife rescue, working with camera trapping. This is in Nagaland again, in Mon district. The fellow you see on the left corner, Wanmai. Wanmai, in fact, has started a whole restoration project in his village. He's formed something called the Biodiversity Management Committee, which is recognized by the government. And this area, in his area, there's a large problem of deforestation. as well as water. Water is a big problem. So One May has got the entire community together, the youth. And if you see this area which is marked out, this is between two small patches of forest. And the whole community now is coming together, building a nursery. And the idea is that gradually they'll try and reforest this area. So the fellows, the alumni now are becoming the key points for us to work with. And they are forming the learning sites for the other fellows to inspire other fellows to make a difference. Similarly, this is Anoko in rowing. He works with awareness on bullock gibbons, and he got selected as Mud on the Boots fellow by Sanctuary. And he continued. He's played an active role recently, raised his voice against the dams which are coming up in his area. He belongs to the Idumishmi tribe. And that's one of the most beautiful biodiversity area, the Dibang Valley. And it's one of the areas which has a very good tiger population in Upper Dibang outside the protected area. So Anoko is one of the people from the community. He's raised his voice against the thing. Similarly, there's a whole range of fellows. These are 4 fellows from different states who started their own little production company called Genesis 4. And they make conservation films in the area. And so there's a whole lot of fellows now. These 3 are working in a whole landscape called Karbi Anglong in Assam, which is the largest district. Again, most of these forests are community forests. So a lot depends on how the community takes it forward. You have the protected areas, but many of the forests in the Northeast are community forests. So when we work on conservation, it's very important to involve the community. And in this case, the fellows are part of the community. Because they're part of the community, immediately there's a grounds up approach, where they are able to take things forward. They're able to bring in the perspective of the community. And then we become just like a support system for the work which they do, So this is Pele. He got a National Geographic early career grant. He's from Nagaland, also a wonderful photographer. So a lot of video films, unfortunately, on an online platform, it's very difficult to show videos because of the network. So you can go to our YouTube channel called Green Hub Video Diary. A lot of films are there. You can share it for your classrooms, anything like that. And these are some of our ongoing projects, the Forest Project, the Youth for Forest Project. And so thanks a lot. And I think I'll open it up to questions and, whatever questions you have. I hope I was able to communicate about Green Hub. Yeah.
Absolutely, Ms. Banerji, absolutely. You have been communicating wonderfully. Your enthusiasm was more on your face, I would say, and largely on your slides also. I mean, it just shows how much you enjoy your work. I'm just getting a little emotional and personal here that it's taking me back to my PhD days in Mawsynram and working with IFED and going through all the areas of Northeast. It was wonderful listening to you. Before we go to interaction, I would just like one information from you. If participants want to approach for the fellowship with your Green Hub, what is the process? I mean, how do they go about it?
Dr. Bishwarup, this particular fellowship is mainly for all the Northeast states. So anybody belonging to the Northeast can apply. Primarily, like I said, the focus target group is from remote areas, or even urban centers, but people who are really have a inclination towards conservation or want to do something with social change. Our application process now is open through the year, but officially starts in December. We put out the application on Facebook, on email. We share emails with all organizations. We put it out in regional newspapers also. We make phone calls. Like now we've interacted with you. You'll get an email about our application and then you can share it. Once the applications come in, the first round is phone interviews. There are 5 to 6 jury members who do phone interviews. Once the phone interviews are done, there's a face-to-face interview in Tezpur, where the fellows have to come. We try and cover the cost of the fellows coming to Tezpur because it's quite expensive, the travel in Northeast. And because many of the fellows belong to remote areas, we try and cover the cost of their coming to Tezpur. Once the interview is done, then we send out the final list. This is in April. December it starts. April, first week, 7th, 8th, 9th are the final interviews. By 15, 16, the final list is out. And May onwards, our fellowship starts. May to next May.
That's great. I asked because we have an international audience. We have audience from all over the country also, from India. So maybe word of mouth also, this would be good for people to get to know how to apply. We are very interested to know about your movie, Shores of Silence, Whale Sharks in India, for which you were awarded. Could you kindly talk about it a little?
Yes.
Briefly?
So this film was when I started my career, I worked with a studio called Riverbank Studios. And I worked with Mike Pandey, who's a very well-known wildlife filmmaker, a very eminent wildlife filmmaker. So I was working with Riverbank Studios for almost 10 years before I started my own production. So during that time, along with Mike and a colleague of mine, Shibani, we followed the story of the whale shark over 4 years, I think. This was on the Saurashtra coast near Veeraval. We had heard of the whale sharks coming there, but we couldn't get any information. So when we went there, we realized it's called the barrel. Whale shark is called the barrel because barrels are used for hunting it down, So whale shark is the biggest fish in the ocean. Like a small whale shark would be about 30 feet, The largest whale shark found on the Indian coast was maybe in the 60s, about 60 feet, And they are the largest fish in the ocean. So they're very gentle and their mouth is like a whale. That's why it's called a whale shark. So it was being killed along the coast earlier by fishermen just for the liver. The liver is made into oil for waterproofing boats. So earlier only the liver was taken out. The liver itself is huge, and rest of the fat, which is only blubber, was thrown as carcass. Then one of the people in Gujarat started exporting it as tofu meat because it was white, and also the shark fin. That's when the whale shark started selling. It was 1 rupee, 2 rupee a kilo when we were filming it. And we realized that it wasn't their main income. Mainly the hunting used to happen in April and May. We mostly filmed end of April, May when we got the whale sharks. And but the number of whale sharks getting killed were huge. Even in one village, in a day, we would see 5-6 whale sharks, which were killed. So the number of whale sharks, I think, must have been more than 1,000 in a day, maybe over the season, and it's a big animal. So the film was about that. And because the film kind of captured what was happening, it was taken up by organizations and it was put under the Wildlife Protection Act. And then different organizations also pitched in, like Wildlife Trust of India and other organizations. And now it's a protected fish. And in fact, the community itself is involved in protecting the fish. And if by mistake it gets captured in the net, the fishermen are given compensation and things like that. The film was made in 2000. And I think over the next 2 years, it was put in the Wildlife Protection Act. Yeah.
That's amazing. Amazing achievement, Ms. Banerji. Any work has been done so far with you or others on the dolphin at Brahmaputra?
There's a group called, there are different people working in Assam on dolphins. Aranyak, one of the groups, one of the wildlife conservation groups in NGOs in Assam, based in Assam. I know they have been, monitoring the dolphins, and they've done some projects on that. In fact, they had a cruise which was supposed to follow the dolphins along the Brahmaputra. I don't know the current status, but yes.
Anyways, thank you so much. And has there been a positive change from your video that you had shown some snapshots of the meat trial? Has there been some positive policy outcomes?
It's a very difficult thing to say because, see, hunting it's so extensive and it's across the region. And it's also something which was done for generations, so to say that it's very difficult to say something like the film made a difference. It was more that I think where the film played a role was pushing us to actually go beyond films. Like a film like Whale Shark or a film like Amur Falcons are films which actually made a difference overnight, But a film like Wild Meat Trail, because it's not one person or one community, it's a system, it's a culture, you know. And for that to change, it takes years. So, and for us, I think the main thing was that it the film helped us to start something called the Green Hub, because it pushed us to get out of our comfort zone and say, fine, you've made a film, but that's not enough. Now, the change which is happening, I guess, is the effort of so many groups, so many wildlife researchers are working, so many NGOs are working. We are just part of that entire ecosystem. And I think the hope is that all the collaboration between people working with conservation will somewhere make a change, you know? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Banerjee. Wonderful listening to you and very inspired. I hope we'll be in touch in future and kindly be with us. We will move on to our next technical session. We will actually like to invite Dr. Krishna Upadhaya again if he is online. I would like the host to kindly connect us to Dr. Upadhaya. Yes, that's great. We can see Dr. Krishna Upadhaya. Sir, are you ready to start?
Yes. Can you
Thank
hear
you
me
so
now?
much. Yes, we can hear you, sir. Please.
Okay. 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 So, thank you very much. Overall, like I will be presenting like about the sacred forest of Meghalaya, how it looks. Okay. Then the biodiversity part. Then what are the effect of disturbance on vegetation of sacred forests, and then what are the threats and how we can conserve it. Okay. So see, human activities, it has always been viewed as destructive, but it is only recently that scientists and others, they have recognized the importance of traditional practices, especially community forestry in biodiversity conservation. So in Northeast India, okay, this practice of community forest management is very common, and it has been practiced since ancient times. And people, they have been preserving these forests for a number of reasons, okay, like countering ecological threat, expressing religious sentiments, cultural concerns, political expression, and of course managing biodiversity. So since I will be dealing with Meghalaya, so Meghalaya, it is a part of Indo-Burma hotspot in Northeast India, and it covers an area of 22,429 square kilometer. See, the altitude, it ranges from 50 to 1990. We get different types of forests starting from tropical till temperate. Okay. So the topography and the variation in altitude and climatic condition, all these factors together has made the state one of the uh, richest spot. Okay. And the rich biodiversity of these Khasi Jaintia hills have been recognized as early as 1900s, because Jhukar he made a huge taxonomic collection for the Kew Herbarium from this area, especially Khasi and Jaintia hills, and remarked the place as one of the richest spot in India, perhaps in Asia as well. So now let us see where is this biodiversity. Okay, so these biodiversity are mostly preserved in the form of your protected areas, okay, like national park, wildlife sanctuary. But if you look the ground situation, these protected areas, okay, it contribute to only 5% of the total geographical area of the state, and more than 90% of the land, it belongs to the people, and more than 95% of the forest, it is with the people. Okay, and this forest that is owned by the community, it is in the form of your village forest that is meant for the welfare of villagers, individual or clan forests meant for the welfare of the clan. And then we have other forests like a group of villages, they will be having a patch of forest. Okay. Then we have protected forest. It is nothing but it is like a sort of village forest. Okay. But with restricted, what to say, you cannot extract trees and all. Okay. And then the one which I will be touching here is your sacred forest that is purely meant for religious purposes, and it is known by different names like Laukantang, Laulindo, Launium, Klaublei. Okay. And these sacred forests, they are intact forest communities representing the climax vegetation of the area. And the size of the sacred forest, it varies from 0.1 hectare to 1200 hectare. Okay, and till date, we a total of 110 sacred groves have been reported from the state. But recently, during our exploration, we came across 6 sacred groves. Okay, these are the 6 sacred groves. So from here, I would like to say that whatever number is there, that is not correct. Okay, because still we have a number of sacred groves that we have not reported, especially in those areas which are inaccessible. So with further exploration and all, maybe we will come across more sacred forest. Okay, because it is believed that each and every village had sacred forest. Now, these are the sacred forests that we had encountered recently. Okay, so I'm just showing the photographs here. Then let us see how what is happening in this 6 sacred forests. Okay, so if you see, out of this
Dr. Upadhyay, can you hear me?
If you see,
Your reception.
rites and rituals are regularly held. Okay, religious belief associated with this sacred group is
Sorry to interrupt
very,
you,
very
Dr. Upadhyay.
strong.
Dr. Upadhyay, sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking. Hello? Dr. Upadhyay is streaming from Meghalaya, and I can understand the reception problem. But has he logged out again?
Seems so.
Okay, host, I think if he doesn't share the screen, will he be able to communicate better?
Yeah, I hope so.
We should request to Dr. Upadhyay.
No, he's not there.
Host, kindly go for slideshow.
He has logged out. Okay.
Kindly go for slideshow. I'm communicating with Dr. Upadhyay.
Sure.
Can you hear me, please? Hello.
Yes, Dr. Upadhyay, we can hear you, but we were thinking if you could stop slideshow, maybe your network would be better. Is that possible, sir? Your network is, I think it's a poor network, sir.
Okay, fine. I'll go ahead.
Host, kindly communicate with Dr. Upadhyay. I'm calling him. I think we have lost Dr. Upadhaya again online. I see this as a inevitable issue of connectivity, which we must bear with because uh, we are getting such wonderful speakers. Even their 70% is huge for us. In other times, we would not have been able to listen to any of them. But in this pandemic and this platform, we are being able to connect with our speakers from all around the world, and such wonderful work we are getting to hear, which would have been very elusive for us actually to get in touch and know about their work. So I will hope all of us take this in very good spirit, that this is an side effect of webinars, which does not have happens in seminars. Not that things do not happen in seminars. I have talked to our next speaker, Dr. Subrata Nandy, and he's 5 minutes away from us. We will start with his session in case we cannot reach Dr. Upadhaya. So in 5 minutes, we'll start his session. I will ask the host to kindly continue. After listening to Ms. Rita Banerji, I take this opportunity to inform all our participants. She has talked about the Eco Club. We on our part have started with an Eco Club few years back with our UG and PG students, and all other departments other than science departments have also participated. And we have been doing the People's Biodiversity Register of the area around our institution, which has a very huge lake with very rich biodiversity. We have also set up a Janaki Amma sacred grove in our institution itself, which is a wetland corridor. And it has been a commitment on the institution's part, especially our principal ma'am, who has reserved that area as a biodiversity conservation site after Madam Janaki Ammal, the first uh, lady botanist and PhD lady who has done her PhD in botany. She's a taxonomist. She had been the director of BSI during the times of our Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And we are trying to conserve that area. And we would wish other institutions also to contribute small areas for biodiversity conservation. And it could be a network of conserved areas. We are very proud of our efforts in naming the area as Janaki Ammal Sacred Grove, mostly managed by the Eco Club members of our college, an initiative of the Department of Botany. So we are very happy to have with us our speaker for technical session 3. I welcome Dr. Subrata Nandy to this platform. Sir, it's such a great pleasure to have you. We have been relentlessly after you in spite of your extremely busy schedule. You have committed and you are here today. It's such an honor. I welcome our faculty member, Dr. Shopon Mondol, to kindly introduce Dr. Subrata Nandy to our participants. Dr. Mondol.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. It is a pleasure for me to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Subrata Nandy. Dr. Nandy will enlighten us on geospatial applications in biodiversity conservation. Dr. Nandy is currently working as scientist and engineer in forestry and ecology in the Department of Indian Institute of Remote Sensing of Indian Space Research Organization, Department of Space, Government of India, Dehradun. He received MSc and MPhil in ecology from Assam University, Silchar, Assam. He obtained his PhD in forest geoinformatics from the Forest Research Institute, a deemed university, Dehradun. His research expertise includes forest biomass and productivity assessment, LiDAR in remote sensing, in forestry, and forest ecology. He has more than 70 years of research experience in the application of remote sensing and GIS in forestry and ecology also. He has published more than 45 research papers in peer-reviewed journals and co-editors also big book. Thank you, Dr. Subrata Nandy. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Mondor, for introducing us, and I welcome Dr. Nandy. The floor is open for you to interact with, to start with your presentation, and we'll follow up with an interaction session with the participants. Over to Dr. Nandy.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for giving me an opportunity to speak in front of you all. It's a really honor for me to speak here. Thank you, Dr. Mandal and Madam Suchishmita, for your for giving me a chance to give I won't say a lecture on that, but a small talk on whatever we are doing in biodiversity characterization, basically using remote sensing. But before going to this, may I know how much time do I have for this presentation and interaction precisely to be?
Host?
Hello, you can carry on for 30 minutes, sir.
30 minutes?
Yeah.
So am I audible to you all?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, can I go?
You're audible, sir.
All right. So basically here I'll mainly talk on how geospatial technology can be used for biodiversity conservation and ultimately characterization and ultimately for conservation of biodiversity. Now, I'll give a very brief about remote sensing, what remote sensing is. Remote sensing is basically you are acquiring information about an object or phenomenon without being in physical contact with the object or phenomenon. Now, in this case, it is not like every time we are when we are talking of remote sensing, it is only satellite remote sensing. Remote sensing could be from satellite, could be from aircraft when you are taking photographs. Even if you are taking a photograph from a tripod or a camera or a mobile phone, that is also remote sensing. Like remote sensing doesn't always mean it's satellite remote sensing. Satellite remote sensing is a part of this thing where the platform is satellite. So there are various stages in this thing, remote sensing, like energy comes and energy sources, of course. Now there are two kinds of remote sensing. One is passive remote sensing, one is active remote sensing. Now when passive remote sensing, when that means you are using your sun's energy source is sun, basically the energy interacts with the atmosphere, and then it reports back to the sensor, and then you are getting details about things. Now little bit of GIS basically is a kind of it's a computer software data everything, and is basically focus on the spatial location, information, and system, of course. So basically it is an integration of rather you can say hardware, software, data, personnel, and data manipulation, analysis, and presentation. And everything is geotagged, or you can say it's tagged with the spatial location. And when we say geospatial technology, it's basically it includes remote sensing, GIS, as well as GPS. And nowadays the in new technologies like active remote sensing technologies so it's an integration of everything. Yes. Now coming to this biodiversity characterization or conservation, when we say So biodiversity basically, it is, it refers to the diversity of life, you can say, or diversity within species, between species and ecosystem. This is known to all of us. Now, how this, why to study? I'll just quickly go through a few of the slides. Why to study this biodiversity? Now, this biodiversity basically reflects your, functioning, structure and function of an ecosystem. And as conservation of biodiversity has been a priority in even CVDOs. But due to rapid loss of habitat, this has affected the biodiversity in a big way. And so there is a proper documentation of biodiversity or biological diversity is very much essential for conservation planning, as well as for sustainable use of the resources. Now, as you know, there are, in India, we have 4 biodiversity hotspot out of 36. So basically, in India, you have the Himalayan, Indo-Burma, Sundaland, and Western Ghats, Sri Lanka. So basically, you have 4 biodiversity hotspot out of 36 worldwide. And coming to remote sensing, how at what scale what can be mapped, or you can say characterized. So if I talk of, let's say, ecosystem, I can go for a coarser level pixel. So around maybe 100 meter, 200 meter, that is good enough. When I'm talking of forest type wise thing or habitat kind of thing, I should go for a moderate resolution data. Moderate resolution data is around, you can say 20 meter, 25 meter, 30 meter, around 30 meter, you can say moderate resolution. Here I can get a habitat conditions or forest type. If I go further down, high resolution, that means you are going around 1 meter, 1 to 5 meter. By 1 meter and 5 meter, I am talking of like spatial resolution of the data that can be used for biodiversity characterization. So basically, there you are, when you are talking of 1 meter to 5 meter, that means you are talking of communities basically. Going further down, where you are talking of structure of forest, that can, very high resolution data you can get through laser or lidar remote sensing. Basically, in that you are, you will be able to map, or you can able to see the or generate a 3D model of a forest. Basically, you are getting a structure of a forest or maybe a tree. When you are further going down, if I talk of, let's say, a species level, that means in that case, hyperspectral remote sensing plays a very important role. In hyperspectral remote sensing, you have many bands, maybe 200, 400, even in every assembly there was 25 bands. So it is basically at species level. So basically it depends at what level I want to study, at what level objective, what is my objective. So whether I want to do community level biodiversity, whether I am focused on a landscape level biodiversity or ecosystem level biodiversity or within community biodiversity, what is my, based on this, you have the data, satellite data, or the earth observation data, whatever you will be using. This will be totally dependent on your objective, what you want to do. Now, as I said, there are many data sets. Now, let us give you a glimpse of this. May be good for the students who are attending this webinar. Where from can I get data? Because every time it is not possible for me to purchase the data, okay, and do analysis. There will be many problems when you for purchasing. So where can I get the freely available satellite data so that I can access those data set and can do the analysis. Now, if you see, I've given the link also. If you go to Earth Explorer, there is various data sets starting from Landsat to your Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, even the digital elevation models, everything will be, you will get in this, if you search in this Earth Explorer data. So basically here you have to give your area of interest. You have to mention the area of interest. Either you type that name, or what you can do is you can make a, you can identify a region of interest, rectangle or maybe a square, and then you search the data. One more input you have to give is basically the dates that is necessary. So when you are giving using Earth Explorer, if you go to Earth Explorer, you'll be getting this kind of things. Like this first page is something like area selection, date, and then second page is about data, which data you are. So if you see in the left side pen of the panel, you are getting many data sets which are freely available to use. Like Landsat data, you'll be able to get from 1972 onwards, MSS, TM, ETM, and now OLI. Sentinel also, Sentinel-1, which is SAR data, micro data. Sentinel-2, which is 10 meters. There are 4 bands in 10 meters, few bands in 20 meters, few bands in 60 meters. So these are the freely available satellite data which students can use for their work, research work. Now, even in this Sentinel Hub, also Copernicus Sentinel Hub, also you can identify, you can download the Sentinel data. Sentinel data is basically from European Space Agency, and all the data sets are free. So again, you mention which data sets you want, Sentinel-1 or Sentinel-2, and then you mention the identify the area, or draw a polygon around your area of interest, and then you can go ahead and download the data and do work. Similarly, ISRO also provides some of the free available satellite data. You can log into Bhuvan. Bhuvan is a similar kind of what Google is, but there are some additional layers also in that Bhuvan. Bhuvan, you go for the you can see the third tab, Open Data Archive. In that Open Data Archive, you will get this kind of grids, and the grids are dependent on the left side. You can see the satellite data. Here is I have selected the least 3 image. So every you will get some of the free satellite data of least 3 in this. You just click on those grids and can download directly those data sets. So these data sets are free of cost and can be downloaded by anybody to do the work. Now, a question comes, if I download the data set, how to go about? Because this is very much important, as I said, from biodiversity point of view also. What I want to do, basically, my focus is whether shall I go for high resolution data, and I'm working. My aim is to let us say study the biodiversity at landscape level. Now I have ordered a very high resolution data. It will be very difficult for me to do. Even I'm ordering a very downloading a very coarse resolution data, then also it will be very difficult. So when you get the satellite data, the most important thing is how good you interpret these images, because ultimately you are the person who will be interpreting the data. The data will not tell what is where. So what my point of this thing is, subject knowledge is very much essential. If you know your subject, is you can do excellent in this. Subject knowledge and geographic region knowledge of the specific area is also very much important. And third thing is remote sensing system. So remote sensing is basically geospatial technology you are using as a tool to your subject to solve some problem, or maybe any problem or any phenomena. So basically these 3 things are very much important. So most important thing is, as I said, it's the subject matter. Now question comes like which satellite data? Suppose I know this moderate resolution satellite data I have to use. So let us say Landsat data or least data. I think I'll be using. Now question comes, which season data I will use? Because if you see forest, this phenology plays a very important role. And I'll show you certain images. Like this is an image of Moon Valley only. This is February image. This is April image, and this is October image. Now here you see in October, if you see everything, it seems to be all are forests, everything everywhere. Even straw also look like forest. Now wherever you have a deciduous component is there in your area, here it is impossible to differentiate those things. Suppose I don't know whether you are seeing my cursor or not. Suppose you look at these areas. Now everything seems to be same forest type. Like this one seems to be same forest type. But if I go in April, now everything situation changes. This is completely different than this color. This is different. But if I come in October, this seems to be same forest type. So what I want to highlight is here, if you take the best contrast image, the problem is If I take only this image, I'll have problem, because this is giving me no, these areas are giving me a tone of non-forest kind of thing. So I'll misinterpret everything as forest as non-forest. So if I go to October image, I'll again overestimate the forest. So the solution is, if it's a deciduous components is there, you should use two seasons usually. One is dry season, one is wet season, so that I can differentiate. So basically, when I'm talking of biodiversity, I should go as far as possible in. And if I say only forest, that won't make any sense. I should go for different types of forest. So my satellite data should allow me to classify these areas as different types of forest. Now this is moderate resolution data. This is the example of very high resolution satellite data. This is world view 2. This is 0.5 meter resolution. Here you can see even the every agricultural fields, even the single trees are available. This is orchard. Tree crowns are visible. So basically, you are seeing an object rather than a composition of crowns. Now this is a forest plantation. Even you can make out plantation for forest. Now this is again satellite, very high resolution satellite data. This is Indian data, Cartosat 2 series data, which is a 0.6 meter resolution, and you can see in false color composite also. Now these data sets you'll be using when you are go for very high resolution mapping of biodiversity. So when I'm talking of high resolution mapping of biodiversity, I should not use a least real landscape kind of data. I should concentrate rather on this, focusing whether can I identify the tree itself rather than telling about a forest. So basically, in this kind of data, what we do image segmentation and then try to separate different tree crowns, and then do classification to separate these as individual different kinds of trees wherever possible. Now, as I said in that in my previous slide, so there are different levels of coarse resolution, high resolution. So what I showed is basically medium resolution satellite data, high resolution satellite data. Now coming to structure, when I in my previous slides also I told, like you can go for canopy structure. Now how to make a 3D model of a forest or see the structure of a forest? This is possible only through lidar remote sensing, or you can say lasers. Now this is a 3D model of a forest. I hope it is working. It is working here fine. I don't know whether you are able to see this or not. So
Yes,
this
sir. Yes, sir.
it is okay. Okay, thank you. So here you can see is a 3D model of forest, and just you can see here all the components are visible, so you can measure at any point of time, anywhere. So when I am talking of precision forestry or maybe structure of forest kind of thing, this is the data which you should be people should use. Now what kind of information shall we sorry, what kind of information, if I see here, what kind of information can I get out of this? One is, see here, if I can remove all the trees from that, whatever I show, and those points, the white dots are basically the position of trees, because all the things are geotag. And then you have diameter, you can estimate height of trees. So height, diameter, canopy projection area, and spatial distribution of trees can be retrieved from this kind of data set. So basically, you are getting a structure of forest and the many inventory parameters which we generally use in forestry. In addition to that, we can go for stratification of forest also, which is very much essential for when biodiversity point of view also. Now this is a overall point cloud data. This is a terrestrial laser scanner data. Now this is overall point cloud data. If I can separate these all into, let's say, terrain, then ground vegetation, then small trees, then tall trees. So basically what I can do, I can do stratification of forest using this kind of, so from the center data, I can do this kind of thing and do stratify the forest accordingly. And suppose I'm interested in this kind of layer, or I'm taking out this only small trees or ground vegetation, I can work on that layer only. So this is the advantage of this active remote sensing, lidar remote sensing, where lasers are being sent from instruments, and the laser pulses hit the object and comes back, and then you gives the 3D model of a in this case is for trees. People do for buildings and other things also. So further going, as I further going is like whatever I showed is one time kind of thing. Suppose you want to monitor the forest, yeah, data sets are available. You can monitor easily forest, and these monitoring is very much important, because biodiversity loss is directly related to this habitat loss also. When there is a loss in habitat, there is will be loss of biodiversity also. So this is these two pictures are from Assam. This is actually foothills of Assam. It's in Sonitpur district. So you see how deforestation has taken place over the years from 1975. See here, and whole area, all this forest has been removed. Here also, and the next also is basically Chardua and Balipara Reserve Forest of Assam. For these two areas. So basically, this give you an idea. If I want to monitor also biodiversity, if I have I know I have some permanent plots in these areas, over time how biodiversity has been lost or the species has been lost in from these areas. Of course, because this is totally a conversion of one land cover to land use. Basically, is forest to agriculture only. So now question comes if I want to do this kind of monitoring kind of thing, or whether I need to do all the processing of the data sets, and go about like use of different software, download the data, do processing, do everything. Is it the only way out? If I want to just monitor the area, whether what are the changes that are being taken place in my area, for this, if I want to do, is it the only way? No, because now if you see in Google Earth Engine time lapse, just you can type this Google Earth Engine time lapse in in your browser, and you will see the whole globe. You can focus on, or focus in your area, and then just see, like I have focused in one area, and see changes, like from 1984 to now it's 2020. You will be able to see the changes. So this is just, you need internet connection. Okay, just your internet connection and go for Google Earth Engine time lapse. So you'll be able to see how the landscape or the area of your interest, where you're doing study, whether it is changes. This is true. Here I'm showing in a forest area, even in a wetland area also, how things have changed over the years. You can easily see, and based on this, this can be baseline information for you to do further research in this kind of thing. So moving to this, I'll give you show you a case study which we did. This is a part of a Department of Biotechnology and Department of Space sponsored project. The project director was Dr. P.S. Roy. I'll show you a part of, I'll show you the biodiversity characterization, how it was done in West Bengal. This project was started in, actually the India level project started in 1998, and it could finish in 2010. There was a report in 2012. So over the years, we could assess the biodiversity of whole India using geospatial technology. So I'll show the basic objective was to prepare a vegetation diagram, then landscape characterization to identify disturbance gradient, and then biological richness assessment. Now the basic methodology was like this. So basically, there are, if you see, there are inputs from biological inputs, social inputs, then you have field data, then you have physical inputs also. Now here, basically, in the from satellite data, if you see from satellite data, the vegetation type land use map was generated. Then from this fragmentation map was generated, and then you cannot forget the role of human being. When you are studying at landscape level, you cannot forget the role of human being. So the disturbance elements also need to be addressed. So in this case, basically, the proximity analysis of road settlement as well as railway networks were done, and then proximity analysis was done, and then disturbance index was calculated as a function of fragmentation, porosity, interspersion, biotic interference, and juxtaposition. I'll come to all of this again. And then this goes as an input to biological richness assessment, where biological richness is a function of ecosystem uniqueness, species richness, biodiversity value, terrain complexity, and disturbance index. All of these, components are brought together in modeling, and ultimately the last product is the end product is biological richness, which shows which areas have spatially, it gives information like which areas are highly biological rich, which are moderately rich, which are low in biological richness. So to start with, we actually could map this is the input that goes the forest vegetation land cover map of West Bengal. And since it is a IRS lease 3 data was used, and this is a biodiversity project, we tried to map as much as classes as possible, because this will give you an idea of what's the status of biodiversity in this area, because ultimately field sampling will be done in these areas or in these types. So and this goes as a major input to assessment of biodiversity, this vegetation type or land use map. Now, as I said, the human component, the proximity analysis of road settlements, and railways, these are also taken into consideration for disturbance assessment. And the main component is the field sample. So we could lay around 640 plots in different parts of different forest areas of West Bengal. And basically for trees, there are 20 by 20 meter plots. In some areas, 0.1 hectare plot was also laid. And for shrubs, 5 meter by 5 meter plot at the center, and for herbs, therefore at the four corners of that 20 meter plot. For these are done, and then of course the biodiversity was assessed using these field data, because field data forms a very crucial component. So basically in this kind of model. Now, one component is, as I said, fragmentation. Fragmentation is basically a number of patches of forest and non-forest in an area. Now, this has a very important impact on the effect on the biodiversity of a region. So, if the area is continuously fragmented, and this will have an great impact on this biodiversity. So, this goes as an input to the disturbance index. And in this map, you can see the highly fragmented area, moderately fragmented area, low fragmented area were mapped. And the basic input here is the vegetation land use map. Now, as I said, disturbance we calculated in an area, or you can say rather map, integrating fragmentation, porosity, interspersion, juxtaposition, and biotic interference. Now, about these terminologies, as I said, fragmentation is basically a number of patches of forest and non-forest in an area. Now, patchiness is a measure of density of patches of all types, or you can say number of polygons in an area is patchiness basically. Porosity is the measure of number of patches or density of patches within a particular forest type, regardless of patch size. And then interspersion is basically a count of dissimilar neighbors with respect to the central pixel. So when there is very dissimilarity with the let's say 1 pixel to neighboring pixel, then it will have a negative kind of so basically, if you think there is a forest patch, and around this forest patch there are all, let's say, habitation or agriculture, so this will have a impact on the biodiversity of this area or the species of this area. And think of another situation when there is a one forest type is in the center, and around there are different forest types, so this will have a different kind of scenario altogether. So this these are the, you can say, dissimilarity of neighbors with respect to the central pixel. That is is taken into consideration. In juxtaposition, basically, proximity of the vegetation, whether let's say semi-arid forest is near evergreen forest, or let's say uh, uh, near a forest area, or is maybe a evergreen forest, or maybe deciduous forest. Near the forest area, there is a agriculture pest. So this is one kind of scenario, and there is another kind of scenario like forest, one type of forest, then one type of forest, then another type of forest, like that. So these all are taken into consideration, and then the disturbance index was mapped. So so it gives why where is like less disturbance in an area, where is high disturbance, where is medium kind of disturbance in area, because these goes as an input also to the biological richness map. So to map the biological richness in an area, the component which you are taken is basically ecosystem uniqueness, species richness, biodiversity value, terrain complexity, and disturbance index, as we have modeled, as I showed right now. So now, so far as ecosystem terrain complexity is concerned, we assume that if there is a very more variability or microclimatic areas are there, so it will support more more kind of biodiversity than simple kind of terrain. So DM, or you can say digital elevation model, comes into the picture, and these are considered as an input to this kind of terrain complexity parameter. Ecosystem uniqueness is in some ecosystem, this may not be number of species may not be high, but these are very unique in their own way, like mangroves, shola vegetation, or some areas you have more number of threatened, rare, and endangered species. So you try to give more weightage to those areas, where the ecosystem is very unique. Then comes the biodiversity value, the value of different kind of trees, which are again in a forest there is a composition of different trees only. So basically calculated like that in forest type, what are the major trees, and what is the value of these trees. Well, value means ecological, or maybe it's like timber, whether it uses timber or in a fiber, or maybe resin tapping, or maybe some other economic value, or maybe medicinal value. So the species which has more value are given more weightage, and those species are composition of these are contributing in certain forest type. Then on those forest types were given more weightage while modeling the thing. And then of course species richness, as we do in different types of forest. This is from field data only. So this is basically when you do Shannon index, and then for different forest types, and then we try to integrate, and you get the species richness of different areas. So all these terrain complexity, ecosystem uniqueness, biodiversity value, and species richness, in addition to disturbance index, these goes as an input to the biological richness map. So this is the end product of this. So here it shows where it is highly biological rich, which area is medium biological rich, is low in biological richness. So this gives an idea of like where the conservation priorities should be set. As I said, the project was sponsored by Department of Biotechnology and Department of Space. So where our work stopped, their work started actually. They started for gene bank and other things in conservation priority areas, because this gives you an idea of where conservation should be done. Now, we did for whole India, and the picture is something like that. This is vegetation type map of whole India, type land use map of whole India. Then you have, this is the fragmentation map of India. As I said, in case of West Bengal, so I showed only one state. Here in the Indian scenario, this report is available. In 2012, it is one report is published. Then this is the disturbance index and land use map of whole India, and then you have biological richness or land use map of whole India. Now, this is about landscape level, landscape level biodiversity I'm talking about. Now, coming to single species, like suppose I want to do at a species level, what should the different approaches? Now here I'm showing let's say identification of potential habitat of swamp deer in a small area. This is called Jil Conservation Reserve in Uttarakhand only. Now here multi-criteria multi-criteria modeling approach was established. So before doing this kind of modeling, one should identify the different criteria. So the target species, whether it's a plant or animal, we should actually identify that plant and animal, and you should know everything about that plant and animal, and these will give you an idea what are the factors you need to incorporate while modeling. So this is a kind of multi-criteria, simple multi-criteria modeling, which gives you an the process basically like this. You have a different kinds of input layers. Input layers are basically dependent on the target species. So it is based on what are the habitat and requirement of a species. Based on that input parameters will come, and then you try to standardize them, and because to bring all these layers to the same platform you need to standardize, and then ultimately you get a output like this, which says which area is highly suitable, which area is moderately suitable, which area is less suitable for the species. Now in this kind of thing, because this Jil Mill is at the center, but we took 15 kilometer by 15 kilometer area around this Jil Mill conservation reserve, and tried to see whether similar kind of habitat is there in that 20 to 225 kilometer square area. But we got like in if you see here, now this was the conservation reserve. Now here we have recommended that these area also need to be taken, nearby area need to be taken into consideration, or maybe in conservation. So here one village was there. If this village can be relocated to some other place, if its possibility is there, then their area also increase. So basically you get the area status also. Like inside conservation reserve, what is the habitat suitability status, and if you go for, let's say, outside, what is the status. So basically you can suggest, using this kind of analysis you can suggest like this extension of different protected area because of the suitability of certain kind of animals in these areas. Similarly, we have done habitat suitability assessment of Himalayan masked deer. Here you can see the since it's a hilly terrain, the variables changes. Variable changes here you have taken like slope elevation aspect because it is hilly terrain, and of course here masked deer presence points were taken into consideration. So based on those presence points, basically you have the dependent variable is the presence points where the species is being seen, or the indirect evidences were observed in the species, and independent variables are in this case like slope, elevation, pest coefficient index, then you have type, and then vegetation type and aspect. So these variables will change from species to species as well as from area to area. So first of all, we need to study the animal or plant in target species, and we need to understand its habitat requirement. Based on this, we should note down what are the variables needed to be addressed to map this habitat. And then question comes whether these variables can be addressed through remote sensing or not. If this can be addressed, what are the sources of this data? So ultimately you get a habitat suitability map like this, which shows like which of the areas are very highly suitable, moderately suitable, again like that, and these are very very good information for conservation prioritization or conservation. Coming to essential biodiversity variables, these are concepts are being proposed in 2013 basically to prioritize, integrate, and consolidate biodiversity observation and monitoring programs worldwide. So basically, these are if I divide into these are species focused essential biodiversity variables or ecosystem focused. In a species focus, you have genetic diversity, and species traits. When ecosystem, you have a community composition, ecosystem structure, as well as function. These are also part of biodiversity, essential biodiversity variables. And you can integrate those in situ observation, whether it's a time series or single snapshot, integrate these and different drivers through a model to ultimately get the to estimate the essential biodiversity variables in an area. So basically you are integrating basically various in situ observation as well as different drivers, maybe environmental variables or topographic variables or climatic variables, many things, to the biodiversity model, and then ultimately you are able to estimate those essential biodiversity variable of an area. So, to conclude, I must say this is geospatial technology is effectively used for rapid assessment of biodiversity, and with the availability of new sensors like passive, active, as I said, in case of active is LiDAR, SAR kind of thing, and more like higher radiometric spatial resolutions, it can contribute to fine scale mapping of biodiversity as well as monitoring, and better integration approaches also, like modeling approaches also will facilitate biodiversity mapping at various levels, and the information generated can be very much useful for biodiversity conservation as well as conservation planning as well as policy making. So this is all from my side. Over to you then.
Thank you so
Hope
much.
I have not taken too much time. As
you are absolutely on time. Thank you so much. And it's absolutely, you have opened a window of magical tools. I mean, to reach into the forest, sitting in your on your table with a laptop and an internet connection. If we can reach into the different stratification of a forest, I don't think anything can be more magical than that. Thank you so much for introducing this to us. I would also take this opportunity to thank you for guiding us, for supporting us in our institution becoming a nodal center for the ISRO IIRS outreach program. You'll be happy to know that we have already conducted 2 courses, the 61st and the 63rd outreach program. Thank you so much for that. And we have a few questions we would like to ask you. Sir, one of our students is asking, could you tell them a little more about the false color composite?
Okay. I just removed that slide. I could have just.
Can I? Hello.
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah. Can I stop share your screen?
No, he's trying a slide. Just a minute.
Okay. All right.
Just give me one.
Sure.
minute.
Sure.
Yeah. Just a minute. Can you see my screen? No.
Yes.
Now this is basically data how we download. So this is all black and white. This is basically Landsat data. So if I see here, this is visible. This is infrared. So first is because it's a Landsat TM data. So blue, green, red, near infrared, middle infrared, thermal, middle infrared again. Now the first 3 is blue, green, red is visible part. So if we use this combination, it is true color composite. Now why to go for a false color composite? That will come. So if I like this, so since infrared doesn't have a color, I give it the same color, orange, assuming it's orange only. So if I make a 3-to-1 combination, means red, green, blue, whatever we see in natural, this is true color. So this is true color composite. Even you can work with this also. Now, so here red data is shown as red, green is green, blue as blue. Now if I give a different combination, 4-3-2 combination means I am giving red color to near infrared, then green color to red, and blue color to green. So I'm not using blue band. So basically I'm using green, red, and near infrared. And near infrared, I'm giving red color. Now we know in near infrared, vegetation reflects maximum in near infrared. To capture that capacity, we are giving red color. So whatever, wherever we have chlorophyll, everything will be seen as red. Now if you see these 2 images clear, like here one is green, another red. Now here is very difficult to identify, the contrast is very poor. Now if you see here, everything is clear, it seems. So this is the reason why we use red colors for us. Otherwise in green also you can do false color. Standard false color composite is when I am giving a red color to near infrared band, green color to red band, and blue color to green band. So basically I'm using a combination of visible green, red, as well as near infrared. So this is basically true color composite.
Thank you so much, sir. That was very useful because many of our students who are appearing for the exams with ISRO and IIRS are very much benefited by this slide of yours. Thank you, sir. I have another interesting question from one of our participants. He has asked, is it possible to measure gene flow by these remote sensing data? Is
Gene
it
flow,
possible to flow?
gene flow, no. See, you can yeah, indirectly you can think of, directly no possible. Indirectly you can do like see, when I say a remote sensing kind of thing, basically the high resolution, highest possible resolution you can get a tree and all. Now if you can think, you can relate a tree with this gene kind of thing, then it's possible. Otherwise no, you are talking about very micro things. No, so you can relate in that way, like these trees represent these kind of genetic, this thing, this is possible. Otherwise is this is not possible.
Okay, sir. Could you take this question? What is the specificity and sensitivity of your high resolution data?
High resolution data, see here high resolution, in this case now, one is like 1 to 5 meter data. One is this. Another is very high resolution data which is less than a meter. Now when I am talking of less than a meter, like in you have worldview 2 data, you have 0.5 meter, one is pan band, and there are 8 bands multispectral data around 2 meter. So you basically you merge these two data to get a 0.5 meter 8 band data. In our case, in Cartosat 2 series data, basically is 0.6 meter data. One is pan band, and another is like you have 4 bands in around 1.6 meter data. So basically when you do pen sharpening kind of thing, you are getting better resolution data with more number of bands instead of one band. Now again, question comes, why do I need a high resolution data at all? Now do we need, if I am doing for a national level work, it is impossible to do this kind of work. It's a small area, specific area, I should go for, no, mainly for biodiversity studies kind of thing. I should go for this. Otherwise, no, I should not use this kind of data for a national level project. One is cost, another is time. Both will be, kind of waste kind of thing.
Thank you, sir. Sir, one question. The 3D model that you had shown using LiDAR.
Yeah.
So is LiDAR only restricted to forests, or can it be used in scrub vegetation or grasslands?
Anywhere it can be used.
It can give stratification.
Anywhere, even scrub, it will give, grass, that will give a better kind of thing because everything is visible from them. Absolutely. So anywhere it can be used, anywhere.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nandy. We have many more questions. I regret participants, so we will not be able to take it directly, but we will get back to you with responses from Dr. Nandy, since we have to move on with the program. Thank you once again, sir. A wholehearted thanks to you for being here in spite of your busy schedule. And this has been a total eye-opener to many of the newcomers in this area of geospatial application in biodiversity conservation. Thank you for sharing this tool with us. We'll move on to our next technical session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
Please be with us. We are going to the technical session. Our first technical session, we regret that Dr. Krishna Upadhaya has had connectivity issues. I must inform you, viewers, that there has been a lot of connectivity problems in Meghalaya. There has been a shutdown in the electricity, and there are many other problems there, but sir is still trying to connect with us. Host, do we have Dr. Krishna Upadhaya?
Yeah, he was there again. I think he logged out. He was there a minute before also.
Yes, could you just run the slide? We will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Sure. Maybe we can take some questions. Hello, Dr. Nandy. I think there are some, we can take some more questions. Yeah.
Dr. Nandy?
Yeah.
Yes, I will just come to this. You have talked about stratification. So one of the questions is, in grasslands, if LiDAR is used, can it show like micro level stratification?
See, it depends on, here what I showed is basically terrestrial laser scanner. So everything depends on, in laser, no, everything depends on the number of points you are firing. So the laser pulses, the number of pulses per unit area is more, you can see everything. For laser, it is like it is kind of like, if you are small light rays are going to these areas, laser can go, because these are very, beam divergence is very less. So basically, if your number of points are very less within enough per unit area, it may not hit the ground, or it may not hit the targets. But if we are doing for a, let's say, small or maybe tree or maybe grass, as I said, so you can reduce this number of points per unit area. If you increase the number of points per unit area, everything will get all the details, everything. Even a leaf can be seen clearly. A leaf can be seen.
That's great. Actually, the full question was, someone was thinking about high altitude sholas, the high altitude grassland study.
Yeah, yes, it can be. It
So
can
it's
be
possible.
So LiDAR can be, see, one is LiDAR can be done. I have not shown many things here. LiDAR can be, used from satellite platform. It can be used from airborne platform. It can be used from ground also. So ground means basically when you are your target is very tree or a object. When you are going for a bigger area, this won't work. Then you can go for airborne LiDAR or maybe a spaceborne LiDAR kind of. Global coverage, repetitive coverage, you should go for spaceborne LiDAR.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. Sorry to interrupt, but Dr. Krishna Upadhaya is back. I think, yes, Dr. Nandy, it was a wonderful session. And Dr. Ghosh, please carry on.
We'll get back to Dr. Nandy. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stop screen sharing for Dr. Nandy. Host.
Yes, I'm doing. Dr. Nandy, can you stop share your screen?
Okay. I'll just find it out.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Dr. Krishna Upadhaya, welcome again. And we are feeling very sorry that you had to, big challenge of connectivity in Northeast, we understand. And Meghalaya has been having some problem last 2 days. But still, sir, you have tried to be with us. Kindly just share something with us, even if you cannot share the slide. I think slide sharing is becoming a problem.
Yeah. So I will just, So see, when we talk about sacred groves, okay, there are certain traditional management practices, okay, means basically there are some do's and don'ts, okay. So I will say don'ts are more, okay. Like first thing is that they believe that the guardian spirit resides in the grove, and anyone disturbing the grove, whether they are plucking a flower, twigs, or they carry anything, means the guardian spirit residing in the grove will get offended and he shall punish the offender. So see, this is a fear, okay. Because of this fear, people, they don't dare to do any harm to the forest, okay. Then another important thing is your rites and rituals are regularly held, okay. So sacrifices of animals and offering of rice beer, it is a common practice, okay. So in all the groups where these rites and rituals are still held, what you can see that there will be a sort of altar, okay, where they sacrifice the animals. And see one interesting thing, because I'm not able to share the slides. If you go to Yalong Sacred Grove, okay, what they do every 12 years, they used to sacrifice a bull, okay, and the head of the bull is hung on the branch of the tree, okay. Then no timber and fuel wood extraction is allowed, no collection of fruits for commercial purposes, and no one except the traditional healer is allowed to collect, okay. The traditional healer, he can collect the medicinal plants from the sacred forest, okay. No collection of even the dead trees or litter. So see, no collection means what? It plays a very important role, okay. These dead trees or litters, with time what happened, they decompose, they release the nutrient into the system, and this is how the sacred forest, Ghosh, I think you must be knowing, they occur in the form of a isolated island, is not it? From everywhere you see, it is surrounded by human beings. So it plays a very important role in nutrient cycling. So see, when we talk of sacred forests, so see, sacred forests, they are important from socio-cultural point of view, like it is important from religious, cultural point, political, health, economic value, and psychological point of view. When we look it from the indigenous people point of view. But as a scientist, when we look into it, okay, it is important from ecological services point of view, or you can say ecological function point of view, because it is important for biodiversity conservation, because it is home to a number of flora and fauna, including endemic and threatened species, ecosystem services, because if we have, as we know, a myriad of life form are essential for keeping air clean, as a source of water, pollination of crop, recycling nutrients. Okay, then at the same time, I also feel that it is also important from environmental monitoring point of view, because it serves as an ideal site for teaching and research, and to monitor species range and habitat changes in response to global warming, etc. So let us see what are the silent features of sector growth. So see, we have walked in subtropical broadleaf forest, means all the sites that we had studied is above 900 meters above sea level. So it largely falls under subtropical broadleaf forest. And when you see what type of climate favors this, as you know, the rainfall is more than 3000 mm. But there are exceptions. If you take Cherrapunji and Monsoon Ram, okay, here the rainfall is very, very high. Okay, it is somewhere around 9000 to 11,000 mm. Okay, and the dominant family in this forest is your Orchidaceae, Rubiaceae, Asteraceae, Lauraceae, and Fagaceae. Buttress, if you see, some trees, they exhibit small plank buttress. So we can say that buttress is also not very common in this tree. But when we look at stratification, okay, how the plants are distributed, then quite distinct, stratification is quite distinct, and it is commonly divided into 4 to 5 layers. And the overstory, that is the top layer, okay, it is 15 to 20 meter high, and rarely it crosses over 30 meters. But when you come again to Cherrapunji and Mosunram, here the trees are little stunted, okay, and the canopy height, it rarely exceeds 18 meter, okay. So the trees are distributed in different strata with high species diversity. Then we come to linas. Okay, linas, they are less abundantly found in the sacred forest, but we do get some common linas like Rauria minor. Okay, then Tetrastigma. Then epiphytes, it is very, very common. Okay, including mosses, lichens, ferns, and orchids. And if you see, the trees are loaded with these mosses, lichens, ferns, and epiphytes. Okay, then now the question comes, how rich are the sacred groves? Okay, so until and unless we come out with some numerical data, we cannot say how rich it is. Okay, so based on one of our study from Jaintia Hills, we encountered a total of 223 to 347 species in 5 sacred groves, okay, having an area of 5 to 20 hectares. Okay, so when we combine all these, we got a total of 515 angiosperm species. So similarly, when we conducted a study at a larger scale, we studied 25 sacred groves, okay, and we encountered 919 species. And see here also, whether it is Jaintia Hills or whether it is Khasi Hills, trees, they were the dominant component, okay, followed by herbs. So when we compare these figures, okay, so see, like I said, 514 angiosperm from Jaintia Hills, 919 from Khasi Hills. So when we compare with this, see, the 5 sacred groves alone of Jaintia Hills, it contributed to about 16.4% of the total flora of the state. So just imagine, small areas contributing to 16.4% of the total flora of the state, and 32% of the total flora of Jaintia Hills. So it is quite a these are quite rich patches. Similarly, this 25 sacred forest of Khasi Hill, it accounted to about 29.4% of the total flora of the state. Okay, then sacred groves, they are the storehouse of rare, endemic, and threatened categories of species. Okay, so 91 species that were recorded from 5 sacred groves and 400 species recorded from 25 sacred groves in Khasi Hills, they were either rare, endemic, or threatened. So I cannot show you the list, but let us compare it with some of the studies. Okay, like Balfakram, see the area of Balfakram National Park, it is 22,000 hectare, and Nokrek Biosphere Reserve, it is 82,000 hectare. And the number of endemic and rare species recorded in this forest were 5,111 and 4,399. But when we compare it with the sacred groves of Khasi Hills, see the area is just 2009, okay, hectare, but it had 125 endemic species, out of which 18 to 26 species were exclusively endemic to the state of Meghalaya. And we encountered 203 species that were considered as rare to the state of Meghalaya. So see, some of the endemic and rare species of the state includes your Eschinanthes superba, Ilex venulosa. It is also classified as endangered by IUCN. Other species are Edinandra griffithii. It is actually a recollection after many years. Okay, so in addition to these, okay, we also encountered, or we also, I will say, discovered new species of the one new species, that is your Pyrenaria cherrapungiana from Cherrapunji and Mausunram Hills, that also from the sacred forest, and one species that is your Liparis sutagenensis. It is a new addition to the flora of India. And at the same time, we recollected many species such as Clerea glandiflora, then Magnolia rabiana. This Magnolia rabiana we collected almost after 100 years. Then we had Magnolia leguminosa. It was actually considered as extinct from the state, but it is also a recollection after 100 years. Okay, then we have one very interesting species, that is your Mitraestomon yamamotai. It is actually a parasite, and this species, see, in India it is found only in Meghalaya. Okay, and in Meghalaya it is found only in Cherrapunji and Mausunram area. Basically, it is a epiphyte, but if you look at its distribution, worldwide distribution, it is found in Thailand, Japan, as far as your New Guinea. Okay, then we have, I'll just skip the photographs because I'm seeing from another laptop here. So now I just would like to say how disturbance is affecting the species diversity and other structural attributes. So see, disturbance, because of disturbance, what is happening? Species diversity of tree is decreasing, whereas the species diversity of shrubs and herb, it is increasing. Okay, but when we look at the density of tree, it is decreasing, but shrub and herbs, it is increasing. And because of this, what happens? Disturbance, what happens? The basal area, it is decreasing. Okay, so now we have two situations, that is mild disturbance and highly disturbed. Okay, so when we compare when we study the species diversity and other structural attributes like population structure and all, we found that with mild disturbance, species diversity has increased. But if the sacred forest is highly disturbed, then what happens? The species diversity has decreased, and many of the individual species, many of the individuals in mid-diameter classes, they have disappeared in the disturbed stand, and the trees in high diameter classes are completely absent in the disturbed stand. Okay, then sacred forests, they are also the storehouse of medicinal plants, wild edible fruits and leafy vegetables. Okay. So based on two of our studies from Yalong and Ralyang sacred groves, we encountered 26 species that are used as edible fruits by the Gentia tribe. Similarly, we encountered 16 species that are used as wild leafy vegetables by the indigenous tribe. And we encounter 65 species that are used for curing a number of diseases, starting from gastrointestinal disorder, dermatological problems, okay, to respiratory disorders. Then we also conducted some studies on ecosystem services, like we started, we measured the total ecosystem carbon. Okay. So for this, what we did, we studied the above ground biomass of trees, lianas, then shrubs, herbs, then total woody debris, and then we calculated the total ecosystem carbon. And when we look at the range of above ground biomass, okay, of we got a value of 187 to 293 mg per hectare. And when we compare it with other studies of the region, okay, it clearly shows that sacred groves, they play a very important role in storing the carbon. Okay, so I feel that it plays a very important role in carbon sequestration and mitigating climate change, at least at the local and regional level. Okay, then we also studied the nutrient stock, that is how much nutrient is stored in the biomass, in the above ground biomass, below ground biomass, and then how nutrient cycling is taking place. Okay, that is how much liter, okay, is being added to the system. And this liter, when we multiply with the nutrient concentration, we get how much nutrient is added to the system, and so on. In addition to this, we had also studied in detail the regeneration ecology of some of the threatened species in the sacred forest. Now coming to threats to the sacred forest. So see, there are a number of factors that is contributing to the degradation and disappearance, I will say disappearance of the sacred groves. The first thing is the change in people's attitude and socio-cultural practices, then erosion of religious belief and traditional values, then increase population pressure, developmental activities, overexploitation, then destruction of primary forests. So see, this destruction of primary forests is also an important factor contributing to the disappearance and degradation of the sacred forest, because what happens, primary forest has disappeared. Okay, so people are now encroaching upon the sacred forest. Another factor which is very, very important is your fragmentation. So a road is going from the middle of the sacred forest. So initially it will be a small road, but with time it increases, okay, and the forest is divided into different small patches. And then encroachment, okay. So see, encroachment for agricultural purposes, okay, then also for some because of the expansion of the village, okay, you will see the house is very adjacent to the sacred forest. Okay, then if you see, I don't know, because I could not show you the slide. If you see the photograph of Ralyang Sacred Forest, okay, it's really, when I started my work initially, okay, there was no buildings, nothing near the forest, okay. But now you see, just hardly, it is hardly 10 meters, and you see a building is standing next to the sacred forest. Then forest fire is also playing a very important role. Okay, people, they used to lit the fire, and this fire also, it engulfs the sacred forest. Okay, so if you see most of the disturbed. So now the question comes like, what can we do for conservation? Okay, so first thing is that we need to make people aware about the ecosystem services that these sacred groups provide to the people. Okay, and another thing is the most viable strategy for the protection of sacred group seems to lie in linking conservation with economic benefits. Okay, so providing rewards and incentives to the people, it may go a long way in achieving the goal. But see, if we give incentives or if money comes in, again, there will be some other type of problem. Okay, so I feel the community, they should also take pride of what they have preserved, because it is their cultural and traditional identity. So they should feel proud of this. But one good thing is that now, recently what happened, some of the sacred forests, the indigenous people, what they have done, they have handed it over to the government. Okay, so that at least they get some legal protection. Okay, so when we look it from conservation point of view, fine, it's very well and good. Okay, so most of the now almost, if you see, around 20 around 30 to 40 sacred group reserves. Okay, so with this, I thank you. I'm so sorry that I could not share my slides. Otherwise, it would have been very interesting.
Absolutely. We'll just take a few questions for you, Dr. Krishna Upadhaya. And
Sure,
we
sure.
are extremely, extremely thankful for you trying to be on this platform. It's technology, and though it's a friend, it can become a foe also sometimes. It's an advantage, and it will have some disadvantages. We have to live with it. But at least we could hear from you, sir. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
We have a few
Thank you.
questions. Would you kindly take that? You have talked about Magnolia rabiana. The question is it a threatened species, or what's the importance?
Yeah, see, actually what happened, go to the slide, Aish. It is actually rare, means if you see the history of collection, the last work was performed somewhere in 1940, 3440 by Kanjilal et al. Okay, after that there was a big gap, and it was only Haridasan who started the work. It's not it. So if you look at this, actually this Magnolia arabiana, okay, it is endemic to Northeast India. Okay, and it has been assessed as regionally extinct by earlier workers. Okay, and according to IUCN, it is data deficient.
We get it, sir. Thank you so much. Another interesting question is one of the participants is asking, could you name any traditional festival or aspect that is linked to the sacred groves?
Yes, even if you see, even see, all the festivals, okay, that is related to your sowing and harvesting, okay, it is related to sacred forest, because what they do, they go to the forest, okay, they perform the rites and rituals, and they pray to the deity, okay, and so that they get a very good harvest. Another festival is your wedding clam. Okay, so here what do? They collect the Castonopsis purpurella trunk, okay, and this straight, it should be a straight bowl, and this trunk is selected from the sacred forest, nowhere else. Okay, they go to the sacred forest, they perform the rites and rituals, they cut it, and then they bring it. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Of course, you have already shared. There was this question earlier that what is the main cause or main threat to the dwindling sacred groves? Just in a short capsule, if you would say. Hello?
Okay, see, there are a number of factors, okay? First thing is the erosion of traditional beliefs, okay? Erosion of traditional beliefs. See, people, they are getting converted to another religion, okay? So other things, they just consider it is as taboos, and they don't go to the sacred forest to do any rites and rituals, okay? In addition to this, Okay, in addition to this, fragmentation, okay, encroachment due to agricultural expansion, okay, due to village expansion, due to road construction, all these factors are contributing to the degradation of sacred forest.
Thank you, sir. Though there are some more questions, due to the paucity of time, we are not being able to take all the questions. I apologize for that. We will move on to our vote of thanks session. And we again welcome Dr. Krishna Upadhaya for overcoming all the technological challenges and sharing with us his talk today, how sacred groves are important repository of medicinal plants as well as green cover for the earth and playing a role in carbon sequestration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I Dr. Vishwarupa Ghosh, as the convener, take the opportunity to thank each one of you, especially our eminent and all dear participants on behalf of the organizing team. I would like to say that it has been a great journey of 2 days, today being the end of part 1 of the international webinar series on biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. We have had wonderful deliberations from Dr. Debashish Banerji in day 1, who has talked about social engineering in making any kind of change in biodiversity conservation, an essential element. We have heard from Dr. S.K. Barik, Director NBRI Lucknow, on how plant wealth is helping the humankind. We have also heard from Dr. Atikur Barbhuya about the crop diversity centers and origins and how technology is helping us to solve the mystery of evolution of crops and their diversity. And today we have been so fortunate to have with us Ms. Rita Banerji, who has encouraged us, especially the young minds, to go forward even through the mode of videography. We can influence biodiversity changes. We have had Dr. Krishna Upadhaya, who has talked about the sacred groves of, especially of Meghalaya, and there are sacred groves all over the world, which are contributing, which are like relics of the plant world. They are so ancient and conserved, and they not only form a mode of educational interest, but also for tourism and conservation. We also had Dr. Subrata Nandy from IIRS Dehradun, who has given an explicit view into the use of geospatial tools in biodiversity conservation and monitoring. We're extremely thankful to all of our eminent speakers who have spared such valuable time in spite of their very, very busy schedule. Thank you once again. A special thanks and a very warm thanks to all our participants who have been very enthusiastic, cooperative, and patient throughout the day 2 of the webinar, as well as day 1. We hope to see you all again in the next series, part 2 of this series, where we will be talking about the role of government and academic institutions in biodiversity conservation, where we have Mr. Banerji, Mr. Chatterjee, Ranjan Chatterjee, IAS, from the National Green Tribunal. We have Professor Shanti Sharma from Sikkim University Botany Department. In day 2 of part 2, we have Dr. Narayani Bharve from Florida Museum. We have Dr. Devabrato Shaha from the Transdisciplinary University of Science and Technology. And we have day 3. We'll be having Dr. Abhay Prasad Das, who will be talking on the role of taxonomy in biodiversity conservation. And we'll be having Dr. Uma Shankar, who will be from Northeastern Hill University, who will be talking on non-timber forest products as a tool towards biodiversity conservation. So hope to see you all again, and we will be sending the links and the flyer for our next session in the WhatsApp group. Do join us again. And I take this privilege to thank our principal ma'am for providing us all the support, guidance, and encouragement to go about organizing these series of webinars on biodiversity conservation, because she also strongly believes that this is the time where we can really make a change. The pandemic has opened new avenues for us to think differently, to make positive changes. It has given us a time to sit back, reassess, and revisit our role in sustainable development. With that, I come to an end of day 2. Kindly fill up your feedback form, which will generate your certificate. It will be active from 6:45 to 11 p.m. tonight. Any issues you have, you can write us at bkcbiowebinar@gmail.com. And I hand over to the host to kindly say a few words and close today's webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Vishwarupa Ghosh. I thank Dr. Upadhaya, Dr. Nandy, and Ms. Rita Banerji for the wonderful interactive session that we had with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and delivering such an interesting and illuminating talk. With this, Vishwarupa had already spoken of about our upcoming webinars. So with this, I close this meeting officially. I end this meeting here. Thank you all. Thank you participants for being with us and bearing with us for all this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.